Alright, so welcome back everybody. So for this video, I'm going to show you guys how to play Bacon Wars from AEG Games. Now, if you're wondering where I did the unboxing for this game, it was one of the games that was in my AEG Black Box from 2015. So that's where this little game was located. So if you didn't watch that, then if you didn't know that, then obviously you didn't watch the unboxing video of that. So anyways, so that's where this game comes from. But anyways, this is a silly little war game all about bacon, meat, and grease, and all that stuff. In fact, in this game, our currency is bacon. Okay, that's our currency. Now, everybody is going to start with 6 cards in hand. Okay, they're going to start with 10 bacon. So this is a 5, for instance. This is a 3, and then 2. So that equals 10 bacon. Now, everybody is also going to get 4 of these low-sodium orchards and 4 meat walls, okay? The object of the game is to... Well, there's 2 ways to win this game, okay? One of the ways you can win is if you manage to upgrade your low-sodium orchards into thick-cut orchards. You don't need to upgrade all 4 of them. You need to upgrade 3 of them into these thick-cut orchards. But it's not a simple matter of simply purchasing these, because you'll notice this is the cost of said card to upgrade. So not only do you need to have one of these, but you also need to upgrade this into a hickory smoked orchard. So you'd first have to spend 4 bacon to upgrade the low sodium orchard into a hickory smoked orchard, and then you'd have to upgrade the hickory smoked orchard into a thick cut orchard. That's a lot of money on bacon. That's a lot of bacon. That would cost you almost 10 bacon. That would cost you 9 bacon just to upgrade one of your low sodium orchards into a thick cut orchard. So that's going to take a while for sure to do. Also, it's not simply when you're able to upgrade all 3, okay? You also have to wait another turn. So let's say if I had 2 thick cut orchards already, and I spent my remaining bacon to upgrade my last one. Of course, I'd have to have a hickory smoked orchard there to begin with. But if I had 5 more bacon to upgrade my 3rd one, I could do that. But then the game would still not be over, because you see, my opponents would all get another turn. So if I'm playing a 2-player game, or 3 or 4, it does not matter. They would all get one more turn to try to attack me and to wipe this out. Then at the start of the turn, if I had 3 thick cut orchards, then I'd win the game, okay? That's really hard to do though. That's really hard to pull off, because you're constantly getting attacked in this game. So that's a really hard thing to pull off. So then the other way to win is to obviously wipe out your opponent's orchards. If all of your orchards are gone, then you're out of the game. You lose, okay? So you obviously want to, attack your opponents. Now you'll do that by spending cards, okay? This is a combat card. It has a combat look. It has a little, a pig-looking icon character. That means this is a combat card. You have to have a grunt. It's also known as a grunt. So you have to have a grunt. You'll have to have a grunt to attack with, okay? To attack your opponents. And then there are sizzling cards. So it looks like, sort of like, little bubbles in orange. That's a sizzling icon down there on the bottom left. You can also add them to attack with. Some of these, though, do other things besides just simply using them to attack with as well. And you can also use them to defend with, too. So, for instance, you'll notice this grease hose here. The yellow 2 is its attack, but the red 1 is its defense. And you'll notice the orchard has a defense of 2, and the meat wall, has a defense of 1. So these all have defense of something, but what you attack with can also be used to defend yourself. If somebody attacks you, you can counter with a card like this to defend yourself, to increase the chance that they won't obviously wipe you out. And here's the thing, as long as you have the currency to pay for all of these cards, you can attack again and again and again, all in the same turn, okay? So let me explain sort of, now of course you have to obviously pay for all of these cards, and they have costs, of course. And of course, my opponents can obviously use their bacon strips to defend with the cards that they might have, right? And there's also sometimes fortifications too. So you can purchase fortifications to add on to your equation. So if my opponent, but you can only do this if it's your turn, but on your turn, if you have something like this, that has this icon, it means you can fortify something you have. You can fortify something you've lost. So let's say my opponent was able to take out a meat wall, and I don't have a meat wall defending. I could, if I had this card, I could basically build a new meat wall in its place to protect myself. That's something I can do. Or I can add to it. I can make a section of my meat wall stronger by adding another one to it, or another fortification to make it stronger. Now, the way it works is when you're attacking an opponent, you can't just simply attack one meat wall or a bunch of meat walls. You're going to be choosing an orchard to attack. So you have to say, I'm going to attack this orchard here. And then you have to finish your assault on it before you can go and attack something else in that assault. But you can actually attack multiple walls, or should I say multiple orchards on the same turn. You could say, I'm going to attack both of these orchards on the same turn because I have a super powerful attack that could easily wipe them all out, okay? You can do that, but you still only attack one at a time, okay? You'd have to first take it out, and then if you still have enough attack power by the time you took out that orchard, then you could continue like what you said you were going to do, and also attack this and this as well. Now, you can do that, of course. But if you decide you're only going to attack, for instance, if you decide you're only going to attack one orchard, okay, and you use a card that's extremely powerful, that has like tons of attack power. I don't have one in my hand here, but let me see here. Let me find one. There's some really powerful ones. So let me find one. Hold on. There's a dinosaur one, actually. Let me get that one. Yeah, so the Baconodon. The Baconodon here has an attack power of 7. Well, that could easily wipe out this, and that would be 4, that would be 4, 5, 6. So that means the Baconodon could attack, logically, it could attack 2 meat walls and 2 of these low sodium orchards as well. So you could say, hey, I'm going to attack both of your orchards, and I'm going to use this Baconodon to do it, okay? That's a cost of 10, by the way, and has an attack of 7, but a defense of 5. You can also destroy one of your fortifications, not your opponent's, but one of your fortifications, to decrease its cost to 7. That's something you can do. But yeah, you could attack 2 orchards. You could say, I'm going to attack both of these, but you're still going to take one on at a time, okay? That's kind of how that's going to work. Now, the way the attack system is going to work. So let me explain some examples of what you could do in an attack. So, let's say I have, first of all, the battering ram, and I'm going to attack my opponent's, this low sodium orchard here. So I'm going to put this here, and it's going to attack power of 4. Now, I can add to that. If I wanted to, I could add the hungry dog to the equation to make my attack against that orchard stronger if I wanted to. I could use this guy as a for instance, and it would make my opponent also discard 1 card before the attack is initiated. So I could weaken him before I attack him with that, but also get 1 extra attack, for instance. So that's something I could do. But maybe I'm kind of hesitant, and I would rather see what my opponent is going to use to defend himself. Because right now, that's all I need to attack anyways. I can easily take out the meat wall and the low sodium orchard because I have 4 attack power. Now, whenever you always attack the defense, usually, but whenever you attack an orchard, and it only does like 1 damage to the orchard, and the orchard has 2 defense, then if you have nothing else to attack with for that attack, then the low sodium orchard regenerates and has 2 defense again. So that means if you were to attack a second time in the same turn, then I would still have to take out a low sodium orchard's defense of 2. So that's the downside of not wiping out the orchard in the first initial attack, because if you just do half the damage to that orchard and then attack again, you still have to contend with a full defense. Okay? So that's how that's going to work. So let's say I decide to attack my opponent, and I spend the 5 money for the battering ram. Okay? I can do that. And that's all I'm going to do for now. My opponent can then look at cards that he can use as his defense. Well, if he uses the grease hose, it's only going to add 1 to the defense, which isn't enough because that would make my defense 4, and his attack is 4, so it would wipe me out. So that wouldn't work. For instance, let's see. This one would also only add 1, and it's even more expensive, so that wouldn't work. I'd have to do something else, potentially. I could do something like this. If I had the money, of course, I could use the grease hose as a defense to add a defense of 1, for instance, but this only actually works if I'm the one attacking. So once again, I don't have anything here that could be used to defend myself. But let's say I did have something I could use to defend myself that's not expensive, that I can afford. That would work. Ooh, the frying pan. Here we go. The frying pan only has an attack of 1, but it has a defense of 2. So if my opponent had the frying pan, for instance, they could spend the 3 bacon to do that, and now my battering ram would only take out the meat wall. It wouldn't take out the low sodium orchard, because this slot, this low sodium orchard and the meat wall and the frying pan, its total defense is now 5 instead of 4. So I would unfortunately not destroy that orchard, okay? But here's the thing. It's not over yet, because I could add to that equation. If I had more bacon, I could add to my attack after my opponent went on the defense. And I could be like, well, you know what? I'm going to add this hungry dog to the equation, making our attack power 5 instead of 4 for the price of 2 bacon. And so now I can wipe him out. But my opponent, if they had the bacon, they could continue this back and forth, back and forth, attack and defense, until both sides, obviously, declined or could no longer, defend themselves, whether they just didn't have enough cards to defend themselves, or they were obviously out of bacon, which is going to be most likely the biggest case. They just didn't have enough bacon to defend themselves. Or obviously, they might not have had the cards to defend themselves any further, because you're usually only going to have 6 cards in hand unless you spend bacon to purchase more. So that's how the attacking example is going to work. Now, there's lots of cards. There's lots of defenses that you can use, lots of things that can help with the attack. For instance, this Meat Rage card here, it adds a +2 attack to one of my attackers. So if I was the one attacking, I could make my battering ram a 6. So I could have that instead. Now, here's the interesting thing. If, for instance, my opponent was able to, take out my attacker, and I used this Meat Rage. Let's say I used this Meat Rage in addition, in addition to the equation, and I used it to this to add 2 attack power to it, my opponent could then still defend themselves, and there is a way they can potentially, Let me find a card that would work well with this example. Where's a good one? What's a good one? Hold on. Let me find it in here. Okay, Vegan Temptation. So my opponent could then, for instance, also use this card. Vegan Temptation. They'd have to obviously have to spend the bacon to do it, but it would remove one warrior from combat, or one grunt from combat. So my opponent could then do that, removing my battering ram. And so now I have a decision to make, because let's just say the Hungry Dog wasn't there. Now, this card on itself can't do anything to my opponent, because it only adds 2 attack to a grunt. This isn't a grunt. This isn't a grunt card. However, it wouldn't necessarily be over. If I had the bacon, so let's just say I had some bacon. If I had the bacon, and I had another card, okay, then I could still use that card. I could still use another card, another grunt card, to attack with. And then this card can still be used on the new card, because you can do that. So that's another thing. You could actually, you add this to the equation and still not waste this card. So there's a lot of different things you can do in attacking and defending. There's just a lot of different things, okay? Let me kind of just explain a couple cards here that are pretty interesting, that could be very cool. Like, for instance, if I add this sizzle card to my grunt, to one of my grunts, I can destroy a fortification without attacking it, okay? I still have to spend the money to obviously use said card, but I could destroy their fortification, for instance. That would be cool. So that's one potential card, and there's another one that does that too. There's definitely a lot of different cards in this game, for sure, that do a whole bunch of different things that you could do. But then there's, like, for instance, this one. You've been cured. If your opponent had this, they could ignore all combat outcomes this turn. Nothing is destroyed. So if my opponent had this, this is like a ceasefire card. They'd have to spend the 5 bacon to use it, but they could use it in their defense, and then all my attack is gone, and I didn't get to do anything. Also, whether your attack succeeds or not, you have to discard it after use. So that's the thing. You are attacking your opponent, but whether it succeeded or not, it will go to a discard pile. So that's the downside of, obviously, having cards that can just instantly protect themselves. If you get this, it's an epic defense, for sure. Could help you out in a big situation. But not all of these cards in this deck of cards are used as attacking and defending. The bumper crop here, you can spend 1 bacon to get 4 bacon. So basically, you're going to get 3 extra bacon, but you have to spend bacon to earn bacon. So that's a card, for instance, that has nothing to do with attacking and defense that you could potentially draw. Bacon got back, cost nothing, and you gain 2 bacon with it. That's cool. The meat wall isn't the only fortification card in here, so there's a couple other fortification cards in here, like the pork tower. It adds 2 defense to, obviously, one of your orchards. So that's a fortification card that would be cool. Here's a good one. When pigs fly, you can use this card to ignore all fortifications around a particular orchard. So if I was attacking an orchard and my opponent had a bunch of fortifications for that particular orchard, when pigs fly, I could just simply fly over the fortifications and attack the orchard. Of course, my opponent could still defend themselves against that, but still, that'd be pretty useful if you got that. So there's just a lot of different good cards. There's another fortification here. The Fortress of Fat adds a defense of 3. So there's just a lot of different potential cards. You've got Bacon from Heaven. If you spend 2 bacon with this card, you can gain 6 bacon. So that's cool. So yeah, just lots of different cards. And there's obviously a lot more cards than that. But that's basically how you would play the game. There are some benefits to taking out your opponent. So if you do manage to take out one of your opponent's orchards completely, even if the meat wall is still there, if you take out one of their orchards, you do get 2 bacon from the bank to add to your equation. So that's like a nice little prize. okay? Also, if you're playing with more than 2 players and you take out an opponent and they still have some bacon left over, you get all of their bacon. So that's one amazing thing to do if you manage to take somebody out who has a ton of bacon still, but they're wiped out and you're the one that did it. Even if your opponents did most of the work and you come in and make a sly attack on them and take all of their bacon, that would be definitely a sly move for sure. But you could do that, for instance. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Every round you get 5 bacon. So in a 2-player game, every single round, you acquire 5 bacon at the start of your turn, okay? So that's one of the things that you're going to do on your turn, is you're going to get 5 bacon per turn, okay? So you're always going to get some bacon every turn. However, if you're the first player in the first round, if you're the first player in a 2-player game, you only get 3 bacon, okay? But then your opponent gets 5 bacon since they're going second. If you're playing a 3-player game, every player gets 6 bacon every round. If you're playing a 4-player game, every player gets 7 bacon. So that's the differences if you're playing 2, 3, or 4, basically. So, what else? Is there anything else I want to explain? I think I explained everything pretty good. I can't think of too much else. Oh, you can purchase cards. So, normally, you can draw up to your hand limit of 6 cards on your turn. You can draw up to your hand limit of 6 cards. So if you start the game off with 6 cards, you can't draw any more cards. However, you can draw more cards, but it's going to cost you 3 bacon to do that, if you want to do that. Still, that's an option. But if you used up a lot of your cards and you only have 1 card left, then in your next turn, you're going to be drawing 5 more cards. That's awesome. So you're always going to have cards, but you may not always have cards if you used a lot and now you're the defender. You might not have that many cards left or that much bacon left. So you're definitely going to want to save some bacon for defense and not go too all out on attack, because you could literally have no bacon to defend, and now your opponent gets to attack you, and they don't have to worry about you really defending yourself because all you have is a measly bacon. So that can happen. So, oh, and there's another thing you can do. One more thing. You can also discard cards. So if I didn't like these cards, I could discard them for 1 bacon each. So if you're not going to use the cards, go ahead, discard them. You'll get some bacon for your troubles. Okay? And that's pretty much everything you need to know in order to play Bacon Wars. So I hope you guys liked this video, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.